everyone. Welcome back to the Fandom Zone podcast. I'm your host, Charles Skaggs, back in the Fandom Zone once again, ready to talk some more Watchmen with my favorite co-host and Will Reeves' favorite co-host, Jesse Jackson. How you doing, Jesse?
I am good. Sometimes smoke gets in my eyes.
Very nice.
But overall, it's very, very good.
Yes.
Charles, this is something that they have taken this series to another level.
Yes, they do. They, obviously, here at episode 170, we're going to talk This Extraordinary Being, which is the sixth episode of Watchmen Season 1. We're at the 2/3 mark. It just aired on November 24th, 2019, just a few days ago. So we're finally kind of on track to review these things. So it only took us 6 episodes, but we got here.
Yes.
Written by Damon Lindelof, and Cord Jefferson is the co-writer this time. Directed by Stephen Williams, who directed the 3rd episode, She Was Killed by Space Junk, which was the episode that reintroduced Laurie Blake. And that was a great episode. So it's no surprise that this episode just as good.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah, and in fact, this is one of the rarities. It appears overall,
right,
in the World Wide Web, has overall a positive feedback. I have not yet seen.
It took them a few episodes because initially they were bashing this as like woke men, whatever stupid inane, incel hatred for this show.
Yeah.
But now I think people are starting to come around, and it's like, well, at least better late than never, right? So
absolutely, yes.
Yeah. This has been fantastic from the start, and just has gotten better and better. And this episode's a perfect example of this.
Yes, absolutely.
So what we get in this story, this is essentially the origin of Hooded Justice.
Yes.
Who we presumed when we were reading Alan Moore's and Dave Gibbons' Watchmen comic book series back in the day we thought it was this like wrestler. And white wrestler. And hey, it turns out, guess what? Something else. And I think it's a really interesting spin on that, taking a very minor character from the original series and kind of, obviously race switching, but it makes this story, it's not just done willy-nilly. It's something that's done to enhance the overall major storyline.
There is so much to talk about here, Charles. And there is the idea, because this is the only character in the original Watchmen who was a, masked, they don't call them superhero, masked adventurers.
Right.
Crime fighters that they never gave who they were.
Right. They never revealed their
revealed the name.
And with being Hooded Justice, his face was completely covered.
Yes.
So that kind of opened the door for Lindelof to kind of pull this thing, to make this kind of change and really make you re-examine things a little bit.
Right. The in the supplemental material in the original series, the implication was that he was this German weightlifter, and that's why
named Rolf Mueller.
Perhaps would have been a little more pro-Nazi, and there was a lot of baggage there.
Right.
I think this is brilliant to redefine the character, yet not totally forget continuity and make this.
No.
I love that.
Yeah, this is actually, this is the backstory that we needed to further the mystery.
Yes.
And so it's not just something that was thrown in for shock value at all.
Right.
It's actually relevant to what's going on. It has a purpose.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to talk about that with you.
Absolutely.
All right. Guest cast this time. So obviously the big star, the big guest star in this one is Jovan Adepo, who plays the younger Will Reeves,
Yes.
who the one who becomes Hooded Justice in this story. He was in the movie Mother! With Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah, I have not seen that.
I've not seen that one, but I've heard about it.
Ken says it's very disturbing. And if Ken Schaefer, friend of the podcast, says it's disturbing, I don't know if I want to watch it.
Well, you definitely don't watch it if I think it's disturbing, but I haven't seen it yet. So, he was also on the Jack Ryan TV show that's currently airing on Netflix, I believe. And he's also was in The Leftovers, which obviously was Damon Lindelof's baby.
Yes.
So no surprise to see him here. We get the return of obviously Louis Gossett Jr. as the older Will Reeves.
Mm-hmm.
And wasn't that an interesting revelation at the end of this episode that we'll talk about?
Absolutely.
We get the introduction of Jake McDorman as Nelson Gardner, a.k.a. Captain Metropolis.
Yes.
And he's an interesting actor. He's been he was in the Bruce Willis movie Live Free or Die Hard.
Okay.
And he was also on What We Do in the Shadows, which is an FX series I absolutely adore, and which we talked about on Titan Talk here earlier tonight. And he's also been on The Newsroom.
Okay.
So, the Aaron Sorkin HBO series, which I enjoyed. I believe you did as well.
Yes, I did. I'm trying to figure out what he did on Newsroom.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I'll have to check that out.
You can check that out later.
He also played Avery Brown on the Murphy Brown new
the relaunch.
The relaunch.
Yeah.
He did not look
which
the
nobody
same.
watched, by the way.
Yeah.
That's why it's
Lynn and I watched.
They canceled
Lynn and
it.
I watched.
Yeah.
Yes. I thought that was a really good casting.
So how was he as Avery Brown?
It was very good. It was played just enough that he appeared to be someone who was raised by Candice Bergen's character.
Okay. It's believable.
Yeah, it was very believable.
Okay. We have character actor Glenn Fleshler as Fred, who I'm going to talk about a little bit more in our trivia section.
Yeah. Now, I want to go back to he really looks different because he also was Brian Finch in Limitless.
Yeah.
The TV series, the one season that lasted, that was based on that, you take the pill and you're now the smartest man.
Yeah, the Bradley Cooper movie.
Yeah, so he's been in a lot. I did not catch that with him, though. He looked so different with the very blonde and kind of curly hair.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, he's been on some interesting things. He was just in the movie Joker, that rather big budget, also disturbing movie.
Yes.
One that I did see and quite enjoyed, in fact.
Yeah.
He was on the Hannibal TV series, which was a fantastic series.
Yeah.
Highly recommended on Hannibal. He's been in episodes of Boardwalk Empire and Fringe and a bunch of other things. So
he plays one of the Fred, this Glenn Fleischer, plays the attorney on Billions, which is really, really, he is very good in that.
Yeah, this guy's been all over the place. So you've probably seen him in other things, but just a few things if you're kind of curious about where you might have seen this guy before.
Yeah.
And then just really quickly, we had Danielle Deadweiler as June, Will's wife. And as we find out in the course of the episode, the baby that young baby Will found, or, toddler Will found in the field at the in episode 1. She's been on episodes of the series Atlanta.
Okay.
If you're familiar with that series.
I know of it, but I have not watched it. Yeah.
Right. But she's been on that show. So trivia this time. Got a couple of things. The title, This Extraordinary Being, is taken from Hollis Mason's description of Hooded Justice in the supermarket incident in his fictional autobiography Under the Hood.
Okay.
And that was a line that was actually featured in Watchmen issue number 1. It's right at the end of that little excerpt from Under the Hood in the back matter of that issue.
Yes.
So if you're curious about, if you want to read the whole passage, obviously that's where you would go. But But here Damon Lindelof is just taking it right from the actual Watchmen comic for this title.
Yes. Oh, good.
So I just thought I'd mention that, and because it's interesting that all these titles have significance, just like the titles in the actual Watchmen comic.
Absolutely.
By Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons. And now also, we talked about Fred, the character that Glenn Fleshler plays. Now, while not officially confirmed by the show's staff, the character of Fred, the racist white supermarket guy,
yeah,
or the guy that lobs a lobs the Molotov cocktail through the Jewish delicatessen.
Right.
That guy apparently is kind of an allusion to Fred Trump, the father of, yes, Donald Trump.
Oh, okay.
Based on both appearance and other elements that align with Fred Trump's biography, including his involvement with the KKK.
Oh, okay. Very nice.
So, yes, for those of you who kind of have your heads buried in the sand, Donald Trump's father was tight with the KKK back in the day.
Very interesting.
According to documentaries and the biography and so on.
Sure.
So yeah, just thought I'd mention that. But
interesting, nice trivia, very nice.
It is. So you can probably jump on the internet and say, "Oh, it's Watchmen being political again." Well, yeah, Watchmen's always been political.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
So there you go. All right. So 4 topics this week.
Okay.
And obviously, right off the bat, let's talk about Hooded Justice. So we get the origin of Hooded Justice. We get the introduction thanks to Angela, Regina King's character. Remember the end of the previous episode, she downed a whole bottle of the nostalgia pills that apparently belonged to her grandfather, Will Reeves.
Yes.
So essentially what she did is she tugged down a whole bunch of pills that make her relive her grandfather's memories.
Yes.
And she's, really out on this. And we'll talk about Angela later in a separate segment. But interestingly, what they do with Regina King, they kind of intersperse her at times throughout the episode, essentially kind of reliving her grandfather's memories as her grandfather. For example, there's the scene where young Will Reeves is getting inducted he's getting his police badge in this big ceremony, and you see Regina King, her character Angela, in that police uniform on that stage.
So, yeah, and I think they did a great job of not overdoing that.
Right.
But just enough to remind you, because the story was so captivating, you could have kind of lost track of, not really, but just a kind of reminder, oh, by the way, remember, she's seeing this.
Right.
And this is her experience.
And I thought it was really effective in a lot of places because, especially the scene where, at the end of the episode, where old Will Reeves hangs or has, hypnotizes Judd. And we'll talk about that, obviously, later. Sure. To hang himself. Or when young Will Reeves was strung up, lynched by the racist white cops in his precinct, that you saw it was Angela after they cut Will Reeves down. It was Angela in Will Reeves' clothes, who felt that, and you could see the pain on her face after that moment.
Yeah, and
I thought Regina King did a phenomenal job acting that scene.
She's just been amazing in this.
She deserves all the Emmys for this one.
Yeah, I really, really, first off, I did not see this coming. Mm-hmm. And as I shared with you last,
see what coming?
That Reeves was going to end up being Hooded Justice.
Okay, got it.
A lot of people did know that, according to the internet.
Yeah, well, the internet always thinks they know everything. So
yes, and one of the things that Damon Lindelof said in an interview, he said that one of the things that people guessed almost immediately was that he was going to end up being Hooded Justice.
No, they were definitely hinting that throughout.
Yes, and he said that, and that's when, and we talked about this in a previous podcast. If you don't play fair with the audience, if you don't give the clues, it doesn't pay off. And so sometimes when you give the clues, people are going to figure it out, and that doesn't lessen the effect of it. Now, I did not see that coming. In fact, after he was almost lynched, and he's walking back bruised and just battered, and he sees the couple being attacked.
Yes.
I think their last names were Wayne. No, I'm kidding. And for him to, throw that hood on, and he still had the noose around his neck and do this, I thought was like, oh my goodness.
Right.
I went, wow, this is so cool.
Yeah.
What a nice twist.
It's a great origin.
It is a great origin.
But and it's horrible, but essentially it's Will taking that horrible event that happened to him and it transformed him, especially, because he was remember, Will joins the police force. He's wanting, because he had it in his head ever since he was a kid. He saw that Reeves movie, Trust in the Law, that he wanted to be a lawman.
Yeah.
And he wanted to protect people. So he goes in there, obviously with the best of intentions of doing that, but because there is this, little secret society of racists called the Cyclops, as we find out in this story, that working against him, and they try to kill him and threaten him. And he takes that, and he takes that mask, that hood that was placed over his face in this horribly traumatic moment, turns it into a mask so that he can use that for good. And
he, in a lot of ways, he is disillusioned from the very beginning. When the chief of police or whoever, the officer that's is congratulating and pinning the badge on every officer.
Lieutenant Battle.
Yeah, they skip him. They skip Will.
Well, the white
chief does.
The white chief does.
Lieutenant guy, who, by the way, is based on a real character.
Okay.
According to
a real person.
That was an actual real person.
Okay.
And he says, "Well, I get to pin the badge on you because the white police chief could not even bother."
Well, yes, it was this dominant racism, white chief is not going to pin the badge on a black guy. So, yeah.
And so he was fighting this. And then I thought, and jumping ahead a little bit to Will's disillusionment when he finally figures everything out. You show him over the years, he's gathering intelligence, he's gathering data, he's finally figured it out after, of all movies, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, which I think was a very nice, kind of, he's determined.
Because it's this movie theater in Harlem.
Yeah.
Where this horrible massacre has taken place.
Yeah. And they've all attacked each other.
Yeah.
And she's telling
everyone
story.
In the movie theater. Yeah.
Yeah. This witness is saying, this voice was telling me to hurt people, to hurt people, to hurt people. And I think I did. And he saws the guy walking with a projector.
Yeah.
And excuse me, and he goes and he sees them loading it up. And he connects something's going on. And then he calls, Gardner. The whole reason he's part of the Minuteman
Right.
is I'm going to need allies to take this down.
Yeah, we'll talk about Captain Metropolis and the Minutemen in a
Okay.
different segment. So,
but that's he
Yes.
is let down.
Yeah, he
which
is.
leads to his ultimate, where he just scorched earth,
Yes.
destroys this, and goes a little bit crazy.
Well,
and I just love that.
Well, he dispenses justice. Essentially, what he decides is,
Yes.
like, he decides he can't. He's trying to follow the tenets of the law.
Yeah.
Even as hooded justice, he's fighting
Right.
crime. I mean, granted, yeah, he's being a vigilante about it, but he's still trying to stay within the law. He's not killing anybody. But
Right.
But ultimately, when he's realized that the Cyclops conspiracy is so predominant, and Nelson and is not bringing the Minutemen to help him, he's off by his own. He realizes, well, there's only one way I can deal with this, and that's essentially to kill all of the Cyclops members he can find.
And wasn't that a great scene where
he takes out Fred, and then he takes out...
Yeah, because Fred doesn't even remember who he is. Fred had a stand-in, a issue earlier in the episode.
Well, I'm sure
Fred doesn't know.
I'm sure he would say they all look alike, right?
Exactly, and he actually makes that.
Yeah. Some stupid racist comment like that.
And he takes his revolver around. He does that. He ends up killing everyone in the warehouse. He sets it afire.
Yeah, there's like one of the cops that actually lynched him in the tree. He's there making this subliminal message movie.
Yes.
That to be shown in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
And he's there recording this horrible, hey, you guys got to kill yourselves, whatnot.
Yeah.
And
never touch
a
white man, woman, or child.
Right.
Yeah. And
and all this to brainwash people, because essentially what we find out through the course of this story is that the KKK essentially has this plan of using hypnosis as a weapon, and they're starting to do that. The whole thing, like with the movie theater, was probably a test run.
Yeah, they called it something else instead of hypnosis.
Well, they called it mesmerism.
Yeah, and
so because there's a scene where Hooded Justice, while he's taking, like, in the back of that grocery store, fighting those KKK guys, he finds this book called Mesmerism for the Masses.
Yeah,
and so it's probably, and this is where Will learns about hypnosis.
Yeah,
and ultimately, as we find out at the end of the episode, that's what he adopts that technology.
Yeah. And so I didn't know if this is because this universe is just a little bit different. I don't know if the term hypnosis ever became popular.
We don't.
And instead it's called this other,
mesmerism. Yeah.
Yeah, mesmerism. And then we see him. I just love the way they set this up, that he keeps one movie projector himself,
mm-hmm.
and he brings it home.
Right.
And so that's where he made the device that we're going to talk about later with the police chief.
The big flashlight.
Yeah.
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 But so essentially it's Will, as we find out through the course of the story, has decided, okay, the only way I can combat racism is to kill all the racists.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what he views with Judd, as we find out. And we'll talk about old Will and Judd later on, but but for right now, I just wanted to make that connection. So Will, one of the things that I think was intentionally trying to throw people was that Hooded Justice looked white because of the Caucasian skin around his eyes, and they come up with the explanation that it was just Will wearing Caucasian makeup, and around and it kind of juxtaposes against Angela.
I was just going to break that same point, Charles. Wasn't when you saw that?
Yes.
Weren't you like, oh, that, without even realizing it, when she was spray painting the black paint,
right?
I just love that.
Yeah, and there's that great shot in this episode where it's Will looking at himself in a mirror, like a hand mirror or something,
Yes.
and seeing, his, wearing that Caucasian makeup over his eyes, but it's Angela's face that we see wearing that makeup.
Yeah, and part of this is because, and I know we're all over the place, but
yes.
just the idea that Will's wife is going, June is like, okay, you have too much anger.
Right.
So this is the way you're going to be able to work through this anger. This is how you're going to be a hero, by hiding who you are, because they are not going to want a someone who isn't white to be their hero.
Right.
And so I love this.
Yeah, it was good. We could talk about this all night, I'm sure.
Yeah, we could.
But there's a lot of amazing stuff in this, and the performances were so good. All right.
Oh yeah.
So let's move on.
Next topic.
Captain Metropolis and the Minutemen.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Nelson Gardner, since we mentioned him before, and he's the one who. He's apparently been inspired by the activities of Hooded Justice and decides, hey, let's invite Hooded Justice into joining our little Minutemen group. And because, hey, we were all inspired by Hooded Justice, and that kind of makes us legit. So what is your take on Nelson Gardner, who's another minor character from the original Watchmen comic book series? We only kind of see him where he's trying to get... in the 60s, where he was trying to bring the crime, he's trying to bring back the Minutemen as a group called the Crime Busters, this time with Dr. Manhattan and Rorschach.
Yeah.
And
this was...
And it all quickly falls apart.
It was really well done, Charles, that this is all about publicity more than it is to really doing some good, though they certainly do fight some quote unquote crime and they take on people. But, even during the press conference, and now let's talk about savings.
Yeah, I have that quote for later.
Okay, good. It's
just essentially Nelson sees the marketing potential in what they're doing.
Yes. And then and Sally's right.
Sally Jupiter,
the original,
Silk Spectre, yes,
Silk Spectre,
Lori's mom,
isn't her first husband a publicist as well?
Yes,
that you can see that.
Yeah, she's the guy that helps Nelson kind of get this whole thing organized, I guess.
And I like the fact that they did not. One of the stories in the original Watchmen is that Hooded Justice and Nelson were involved.
Yes.
And
but obviously in the comic book series we never got to see that. Yeah.
No. And so I like the fact that they did not do away with that.
Right.
We assume that...
Well, Damon Lindelof has said essentially the original Watchmen series is gospel.
Right.
So presumably it had to be incorporated somehow.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think you could have gotten away with, because it is rumors, the original Night Owls, memoir, and there's a lot of discussion about this. But I like that they're saying Will is kind of, he's fluid.
Yes.
He is.
He's bisexual.
Yes, he is open to different alternatives.
Yeah.
And
what we would call today is bisexual. Yes.
Yes, and so I really, really, Gardner is so white bread.
Yes.
And I think it's interesting.
It's one of the things we find out in the Pedia this week.
Yeah.
That essentially he came from this white bread upbringing.
Yes.
So like you said, it's no surprise that,
and so he has more than one secret identity.
Right.
And he's they wouldn't accept you as you are when they're in bed together. There's two meanings to that, right? They wouldn't accept you if you were homosexual,
right?
And they're also not going to accept you if you were an African American male. Not that they
Yes,
would use that at the time, but
right,
if they know you are a Negro
right.
and they know if you are gay, which are neither, the terms, and so that made that whole very complex. And I felt for Will,
They're not as understanding as I
yeah,
am. Yeah,
the betrayal of when he makes that call and says, okay, I've figured this out. The whole reason I joined this team is you said you'd be there for me. And now they're going, no, not really.
yeah.
We're all about
That's not our thing.
marketing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
this,
it's not our thing.
you said, like black riots. That's not what we
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, you're going to have to figure out, and I did not write this one down.
Yeah,
You're going to have to figure out the,
yeah,
the Negro strife your own,
yeah,
So just really, really disappointing. And I think that betrayal is one of the reasons why Will, I won't say snaps, but he's like, okay, that's it. I'm going to have to do justice myself.
yeah, yeah. And it's cool. We kind of get to see the original Minutemen.
Yes.
Just kind of like we did. We got to see them in live action in Zack Snyder's 2009 Watchmen movie. So that was cool during that press conference sequence.
Yes, absolutely.
It would have been nice to kind of see Hooded Justice with other members, but okay, no problem. We understand. Yeah. It's an hour show. They got to move things along.
Right. Absolutely.
So, but it's still kind of cool that at least that was incorporated somehow, I thought. Now, obviously, I really like the scene where Nelson and, when he's first approaching Will. Because at first he thinks, okay, Will is just this cop who knows Hooded Justice.
Yes.
And can get word to him.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he shows up at Will and June's door, and he comes in, sits down, and I love June, who immediately
yes,
dude, you're Captain Metropolis, right?
Yeah.
Without actually coming out and saying it, she's just like,
yes.
Is he blonde and like all this? And I really like that. She's obviously no fool.
No.
And immediately Nelson, there's that scene where he hands over his business card to Will, just so that they can the little brush of the hands together.
Yes, I saw that.
And he makes this comment I think we have a lot in common.
Right.
And the next thing we see is the two of them in bed together.
Yeah, with the excellent cutting of no.
Yes.
Yes. That was
because
very well done.
Because it was just along the lines, and I think I have this quote too, where I did. I thought I did. Where June is telling Will, no, you don't need, or Hooded Justice does not need to join the Minutemen.
Right.
And Will's obviously thinking otherwise because Will. Nelson is emphasizing companionship, hey, you don't have to fight crime alone.
Yes.
There's people here like you.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's kind of right alongside the whole, hey, I'm attracted to you just like you're attracted to me.
Exactly. Yes.
Subtext. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That is. It's really fascinating to watch.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There has been, this whole series has been good.
Right.
But this, I think, brings it up another level.
Yeah.
And the complexity and the density of what's playing out on here truly is similar to the series.
Yeah.
The actual comic series.
Yeah. Back in because you have to remember the time period when the original Watchmen series came out. It was 1985, 1986.
Yes.
And so it was very groundbreaking for its time because it was unflinching. It was talking about topics and subject matter that were only just starting to make their way into comics. Like
Yeah.
like with Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually like Neil Gaiman's Sandman, things like that, where
Right.
Grant Morrison's Animal Man and Doom Patrol. It was one of those groundbreaking comics that elevated comics as an art form.
Yes.
So here, it's kind of doing that for the idea, because the superheroes have kind of become this mainstream idea, especially with like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And
Yes.
here's Watchmen going, well, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is nice, but we could tell a much deeper story.
Yes.
And that's what Watchmen, the TV series, does here. It tells a deeper
Yes.
story, a richer story, and
It does.
it's also groundbreaking in its own way.
Yes. I agree.
And talking obviously a lot of uncomfortable topics, like the racism and just everything that's all piled in with that, and using it as
Yeah.
a backdrop, like the same way Alan Moore used the Russians
Yes.
and the threat of nuclear war as the backdrop for the original comic. All right.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's move on. Topic number 3. Let's talk about Angela
Mm-hmm.
in the kind of the present, and let's talk about Laurie Blake. And at the end of the episode, Lady True makes a cameo appearance. So I think we should talk about these in their own segments. What now? Obviously, Angela is tripping balls pretty hard on this nostalgia. She's having a serious nostalgia trip, and Lori and everyone else is obviously very concerned about her health right now.
Yeah, I really liked how they're playing. I feel like Laurie actually is concerned about Angela, not just because she can use her to find her grandfather,
Right.
which that is what she wants as well. I thought they played that she cared about him, trying to get her to pump her stomach. She brought, her husband there, and him reading, "Your name is Angela. We have 3 children. This is, 2019." And I liked that how, they had that when Hooded Justice is jumping out the window,
right,
they freeze it, which looks like something that would come out of the Watchmen movie.
Yes.
And it's because they're trying to pull her out. I mean, they make that,
yeah.
And then you
that was the transition
blink.
to kind of get
Yes.
back. Yeah. That essentially, she's frozen. She's not moving. Lori talked about how she's, just her eyes are open.
Yes. Blink
but blink if you understand me. So it's, and there's a scene later on where Calvin is brought in, to talk to her and try essentially reinforce her life history.
Right.
So that she doesn't lose herself. But apparently she slides right back into Will's memories.
And the very end, the last scene, as you talked about, Lady True is there.
Right.
It appears she has some kind of blood filter attached to her, is what I'm guessing.
Right.
Because it looks like a tubing that would be like an IV. And so I'm thinking maybe that's how you were able to get, instead of pumping her stomach, you're able to get the nostalgia out of her bloodstream. But, and you've kind of set this up where, oh my goodness, where are we going next?
Yeah.
So I really like that ending. I will have to tell you, you've already mentioned Pedopedia.
Yes.
I think this week's is easily 3 of the best articles they've had.
Yes. Yeah. It's very relevant, especially, with there's an actual memorandum by Lori, which is hilarious, by the way. It's totally in her voice, like F-bombs galore.
Yeah.
But it's hilarious. And some of the interesting things we find out about that is that, because that Angela is essentially talking.
Right.
And through her little nostalgia trip, and
Yeah.
and so Lori is getting information, and
Yeah,
and she's realizing that it's that Angela isn't behind this.
yeah,
It's her grandfather.
and they believe her.
Right.
Other words, she isn't going to have to wake up and try to explain.
Right.
No, she's recording the whole time.
Right.
Because of this drug, they know that you can't fake this. This is really happening.
Right.
So therefore, they all believe that.
And now the investigation
Yeah.
is going to shift from Angela to Will.
Yeah, and they know that Reeves was the Hooded Justice.
Right.
They know that Will Reeves did this. He killed, but using a mind control device, which they go, what? That should be an You heard me right. Is exactly what he said.
Yeah.
So I love that.
They know it now. Now they know about the Cyclops conspiracy, and Judd. They know about Judd. And and they make the connection between Cyclops and the 7th Cavalry.
Yes.
So this was a pretty interesting addition.
Yeah.
And it's obviously it's essentially Lori piecing things together.
Yeah.
And actually getting the true story.
And I am hoping that we have 3 episodes left.
So Angela should be in the clear, presumably.
Yeah, I am hoping that Angela and Lori can team up to try to make this going on.
Yeah. Did you notice that they also they're talking about now arresting Mirror Guy?
Yeah. Yes, I did see that.
So we'll see what happens there. That could be an interesting.
We will. Yes.
So, all right. Now, Lady True at the end, like she shows up and essentially Angela wakes up. Now, some of the things that we find out, in the Pedia stuff is that that obviously Lady True was behind the nostalgia drug. So obviously she's now going to know how to bring Angela out of that coma, for lack of a better term, and I kind of wonder if Will had done that deliberately. What do you think, old Will?
Yeah,
wanted her to experience, like he said, he wanted her to know him.
Yeah.
So maybe he knew that she would probably take those pills at some point, which is why he left them. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think he absolutely could have been doing that.
Yeah, I mean he's up to far worse apparently.
Yes, absolutely.
And we'll talk about that. So, anything else about Angela, Lori, or Lady True?
Mm-hmm.
No, anything else?
No, not at all.
Okay. All right. Final topic. Let's talk. Right, we were talking about it already. Let's talk about Old Will and Judd. The big revelation, the mystery of Judd's murder, apparently solved.
Yes.
We know who did it, and we know now why he did it. And so let's get your thoughts on the revelation of how Judd Crawford was hanged.
So first off, I love that old William told the truth.
Louis Gossett Jr.
Yeah, Louis Gossett Jr. told the truth. Who are you? I'm the guy that hung your chief up.
Yep.
Yep, that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, I kind of wonder because it seems so implausible.
Yes.
But now we know how he could have done that.
I don't know.
What'd you think of the explanation? The way did you buy the hypnosis thing?
I totally bought the hypnosis thing. I bought the whole putting the tires,
the tire strip,
the tire strip, getting him there,
the Ripper,
not being afraid of an old man in a wheelchair, even when he got him not under mind control when they were talking back and forth.
Right.
I could see Will not being afraid. And then I don't know if Will is truly part of the 7th Cavalry, the Cavalry. When he talked about that,
you mean Judd is part
Judd,
of
yeah. I don't know totally if that is the truth or not.
Judd said some. I don't mean to interrupt, but
No, please.
Judd said some interesting things.
Yeah.
Right before he was hung.
Yeah.
He says that Will calls out like, "Hey, you had a Klan robe in your closet,"
Yeah.
and then Judd says, "Well, it was my grandfather's, and it's my legacy."
Right.
So essentially, Judd, and this kind of implies that Judd indeed was one of the 7th Cavalry that attacked, and was the one at Angela's home on the White Night.
So, and maybe that's why she didn't die,
right?
Because remember, we never have it explained.
Yeah, because remember, exactly. We talked about how there was a 7th Cavalry guy who she was just shot, and he was standing over her, and could have easily finished her off, but didn't.
Yeah. Now,
so presumably that was Judd, right?
I think that's a good theory. I was wanting to, and I think you just blew away my point, but I'm going to make it anyway.
Okay.
Is
Sorry.
He could have been no. That's okay. I love that. My idea was with him and the senator.
Yeah.
Were they working together to try to get either to keep them from being as dangerous as they could? In other words, but if so that's why
there might be some more. There might be some more Judd story that I think we need.
Yeah, that he's going. I don't think you understand everything. He does make that.
Yes,
that
was a
point. So that's the only reason. But then
there might be more to this story. We don't know yet. Yeah.
But when you think about that, to explain why she's not killed would be he was that Klansman.
Yes.
And he would not do that to her because of his affection he'd had for her for so long.
Yeah. And so old Will made that, he made that little mocking Cyclops hand gesture.
Yes, right.
To Judd. Figuring that, okay, this is all, and this kind of reveals that old Will has, all these years has been trying to take out these Cyclops members. So we don't know how many more other people he's killed.
We don't, and we don't know. Like I said, I think there is still left to Judd's story.
Right.
We'll see, but and I would not be surprised if Judd wasn't part of the Cyclops, conspiracy, but we'll wait and see. But I loved the whole flashlight thing and them having to get up there. It was shot really
well.
Yeah, it was shot really well.
Yeah.
Yes.
So essentially what we do, we now know, obviously that Will killed Judd. So
yes, absolutely.
But pretty powerful stuff.
Yes.
All right. Anything else about this episode before we move on?
No. I think it was absolutely well done. I just saw on the internet some idiot that just said I was
This is why you should be listening to me and not scouring the internet during the podcast.
But I wanted to make sure I was double checking something, one of my quotes, and someone said, Damon Lindelof, you're just dumb. Hooded Justice was white and he may have been gay. And I just go, you just totally don't get this, the whole point.
You just don't get it, do you? You don't.
No, I don't. No, I think this is an incredibly complex, beautifully written and filmed episode. It is mostly in black and white. It just the soundtrack is songs from that era that are done absolutely beautiful.
Great sound. It's a fantastic soundtrack.
Yeah, and
I'm gonna have a lot of fun putting my custom soundtrack album together.
And and we don't even talk about his mother was the piano player in the silent films, right?
We see her. She keeps coming up. Yeah. That was all the big moments. We kind of see her off to the side playing piano.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. All right, so what's your favorite lines of this episode?
So I only had two.
Okay. Not
because there aren't great things. I've watched this twice and I keep getting just involved in the story.
Yeah.
So my first one, and this is my favorite, is in the American, hero story.
Yes.
There before, right before Agent Blake tells him to turn that blank off.
Yes.
You hear
turn that crap off. Yeah.
The fictional.
Yes.
Hooded Justice say, I probably should be worried that I just murdered 2 FBI agents, but all I can think about is that Nelson Gardner is cheating on me with J. Edgar Hoover, no less.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a nice reminder. And that's actually, yeah. J. Edgar Hoover was a transvestite back in the day. Yeah.
And was yes. And so the idea that the FBI agents going that this is no way our director,
Right. Yeah, exactly. You're all adamant that no way is he homosexual. Yeah. Exactly.
Sex stuff.
Yeah.
How about you? You got another one?
Yeah. One of the things I loved about this episode was there's a great moment where younger Will goes to a newspaper stand and the vendor, he's talking with a vendor.
Yes.
And the vendor's there shows him a copy of Action Comics #1. Yes. Which is the first appearance of Superman. So as a big Superman fan, and I'm sure as you are, you really geeked out over this. So there's the quote, Will goes, like he sees the vendor reading the comic and he goes, beats the news, huh? And the vendor, who's presumably German descent or whatever, says, yeah, more hopeful. And Will says, what's it about? And the vendor says, a boy, a baby, his father puts him in a rocket ship and sends him to Earth just before his planet explodes.
Yes.
And I just love the fact that Superman's origin is kind of worked into Hooded Justice's origin.
Yeah, because they show the flashback of his father trying to help him and doing this. Yeah.
Well, trying to, he sends him off to rescue him from the Tulsa race riots.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's very similar, and
it is.
And it's a great analogy, and I just love the fact that Superman's origin was relevant to that.
Absolutely.
And it's done in a very subtle way. All right. You have any other quotes? What's your other quote?
Just when Laurie is talking about, and she's doing a little bit of Blake-splaining.
Yes.
When
I love that that's a verb, Blake-splaining.
Yes. While Angela's there and they're trying to talk to her, and I know it's a cliche, like, well, as you know, like, well, then if you know, why are you saying it? But anyway, they're going into why this nostalgia is a bad deal and how, it ended up, you got to get the market stronger. And the line, who wants to live in the present when you could be in the past, I thought was a great line.
That is a great line.
Yes.
I like June, where she's talking to Will about about how he's going to get justice.
Yes.
And she says, you ain't going to get justice with a badge, Will Reeves. You're going to get it with that hood. And if you want to stay a hero, townsfolk gonna need to think one of their own's under it.
Yes. Well done. Yes, absolutely.
And then Laurie talking with Angela, trying to get her to come back from her trip. Laurie says, "You're not moving, but your eyes are wide open. It's kind of effing freaky, Angela."
Yeah.
And then,
I liked it.
And then lastly, Hooded Justice and Captain Metropolis at the press conference. The presser. And Hooded Justice says, I believe there is a vast and insidious conspiracy at play in the city, and I have evidence that a secret plan is being developed by, and then Captain Metropolis cuts him off and says, a new crime boss who calls himself Moloch the Magnificent. Now, this villain is planning to harness the sun's energy into a deadly solar weapon, threatening every man, woman, and child in New York. So, if you'll excuse us, fellows, the Minutemen have a city to save. But first, let's talk about your savings and our good friends at National Bank.
Yeah, that was great. That was just so wonderful.
So, essentially, it's Captain Metropolis whoring out the Minutemen to for commercial purposes.
Absolutely. Good.
Yeah. Can't imagine why the Crime Busters failed in the 60s, can you?
Cannot at all.
No. So apparently the comedian was right on the money torching his little map.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. What's your rating for this one?
I'm going to give this a 10 out of 10. Ooh. Flag wrapped babies.
Nice. Very cool. So you really, I mean, that's a solid 10 from you. So
yeah,
I praise indeed.
Yeah.
So is this your favorite episode of the season so far?
Yeah, I mean
because I don't think you've given a 10 before. Or did you do it for episode 3? I can't remember.
I may have done. I gave last week. Laura's I might have gone 9.5. Laura's was absolutely, I think, my favorite because I just loved her so much.
Yeah.
But I just think these past 2 episodes, they are giving us answers that we didn't even know we wanted.
Yeah.
I just think this has been amazing.
We've had 2 strong episodes back to back.
Yes,
really good.
Absolutely.
And hopefully that means we're just going to get more. So hopefully.
Absolutely, yes.
I give it 9 out of 10. I'm going to give it 9 out of 10 Black Hoods in honor of Hooded Justice.
Good. Very nice.
So, yeah. Phantom Zone news, just really quickly, we got the kind of synopsis for Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 3.
Ooh, nice.
This is the Flash portion of the storyline, the Flash episode. Yes. So I thought I'd just go ahead and relay that. The synopsis goes, Pariah, and this is played by Tom Cavanaugh. So Tom Cavanaugh, who's obviously played a lot of Harrison Wells on that show, is playing Pariah. That's who is probably the new version of Wells is going to be revealed as. He enlists Black Lightning to help stop the Anti-Monitor after Flash 90, and that's John Wesley Shipp's Flash from the 1990 Flash TV series. So he's going to make his return. Shares what he learned from his battle in Elseworlds. And with the help of Black Lightning, Barry, Cisco, and Killer Frost, they come up with a plan that could save them all. Meanwhile, Iris has a heart-to-heart with Ryan Choi, guest star Osric Chow, and Ryan Choi, obviously known as for more younger comics viewers as Ray Palmer's successor as the Atom.
Nice.
So the all-new Atom. That was the series that was written by Gail Simone here around 2006, I believe. And Iris is going to have that heart-to-heart while Oliver and Diggle return to an old familiar stomping ground. So nice. What do you want to bet that's Leanne Yu or something?
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
So we'll see. But sounds very cool. Obviously, we're going to be talking about Crisis on Infinite Earths here on the Phantom Zone.
Excited.
DJ Nick is all excited about joining us for that. So we're gonna have to start coordinating our recording times because he's also going to join us on our Titan Talk for Titan Season 2 review.
Absolutely.
So we're going to be talking a lot with DJ Nick. So
yes, good.
Don't have any fan mail once again. Keep hoping that people are going to write in and tell us what they think about Watchmen. So if you're out there and you want to reach us, please do, because we'd love to hear from you at phantomzonecast@gmail.com. That's phantomzonecast@gmail.com. Or you can reach us on Twitter at phantomzonecast on Twitter, or Facebook, the Phantom Zone Podcast. That would be great. Or Instagram, you can reach us at Phantom Zone Podcast on Instagram.
Good.
And Jesse, how about you? Where can they reach you?
So you can hear me talk Doctor Who with Charles at Next Stop Everywhere. You can hear me talk Titans with Charles on Titan Talk, both on this fine network of podcasts. You can hear me talk Bruce Springsteen fandom around the world on Set Listing Bruce. You can find me on Twitter at Jesse Jackson DFW, and we would love for you to. I'd love for you to check those podcasts out and let me know what you think. Charles, how about you?
Well, obviously, at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, at Charles Skaggs on Instagram, Facebook, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio, and my blog of Geeky Things. Come on, you.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn Good Coffee and Hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on the Phantom Zone podcast, including Watchmen, including The Boys, Krypton, Crisis on Infinite Earths, all kinds of comic book sci-fi news of my other podcasts that I do for Southgate Media, including the aforementioned Next Up Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast with Jesse, and Titan Talk, the Titans podcast that I do with Jesse as well, coincidentally enough, and Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast, where I talk with Zan Sprouse, wife of comic book artist Chris Sprouse, where we talk about all things Twin Peaks, David Lynch, pop culture nonsense, and more. Please check that out. We definitely appreciate it. And also would appreciate it if you went to Apple Podcasts, rate and review us here at the Phantom Zone. We definitely appreciate that because that helps people find us. And if hopefully you're enjoying the podcast, you enjoy what we do. And if so, it'd be great if you could share that in the form of a review.
Yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
So,
so we got 3 episodes left.
Yes, we're at the 2/3 mark. We're heading into home stretch. I
have absolute confidence that this is going to be an amazing last third of the series. You know, this and this. I am just. This has been really something special, and it has been wonderful getting to talk to you about it.
Yeah, so I mean, supposedly they're wrapping. You know, Damon Lindelof has said this is a self-contained season.
Yes.
You know, kind of like if you watch the HBO series True Detective.
Yes.
And so presumably we'll get everything all wrapped up. Hopefully it'll stick the landing. Fingers crossed.
Yes,
they got a lot to cover still.
Yes.
So fingers crossed they can stick the landing, and if they do, it's going to be amazing.
I agree.
All
Absolutely.
Right. So next time on the Phantom Zone, come on back. You know, for was it episode 171? We're going to talk An Almost Religious Awe, and that's Watchmen episode 7. And in that episode, under Lady True's care, Angela undergoes an unconventional treatment while Agent Blake chases down a lead.
Nice.
Elsewhere, the smartest man in the world delivers a stunning defense of his past actions. So it sounds like we're going to get lots of fun with Ozymandias and the Game Warden. So, all right. So it's going to be a lot to talk about. And Angela's back in play as Sister Knight. That's going to be great. And hopefully more of the mysterious Lady True.
Yes. Yay.
Right. So everybody come on back for episode 171 of the Phantom Zone podcast. And Jesse, any final thoughts?
Not at all. I'm excited about it, and we'll see what we got this Thanksgiving weekend.
Sounds good.
There'll be a new episode. And then we'll talk about it just as soon as we can.
All right. So everybody, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time right here on the Phantom Zone podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Awesome.